Welcome back to the Agamemnon game review. I'm Agamemnon the First. Today's episode is being recorded on the 4th of September 2018. It's Tuesday, 1:04 a.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. The video was captured on the 23rd of August 2018. This will be part 1 of a 2-part video. We're continuing on with our quest on the Horde side with our Forsaken Warlock, Lurch Manos. I believe in the last episode or video, we had just got done completing the Ness Wary quest. Nessingwary, I think that's his name. The legendary game hunter. Any good Warlock? Once you get going, you always want to cast your Hellstone and Soulstone. Once you get going, I usually cast those first. The Soulstone's a good way of keeping track of how long 10 minutes goes by, 15 minutes. I was thinking the other day, what should be a Forsaken ability should be their ability to regenerate, or they should have a permanent resurrect ability. Because really, an undead corpse is a reanimated corpse, right? So they have to have some ability to reanimate themselves. I don't remember exactly why I paused here, but it's only a momentary delay. Most of today's video will take place on the west side of the map here. This video was actually captured is a little longer than 30 minutes. So it's probably going to be a 3-parter by the time we get done.
Zandala will endure. Zandala forever.
Here we go on our trusty steed. One thing I've noticed in watching these videos is that I haven't bought Lurchmano's artisan writing skills. This character was boosted up, so I don't really sure what they boosted you to for his artisan. I wonder if that's maybe why I can't use my flying mount here. One thing I am gonna do in more recent days is acquire that spell. Not really a spell, but it is in the spell book, so. The backdrop music for this area is actually pretty cool. It reminds me of Star Wars: The Old Republic. When you go to the is it the Rishi area? In the expansion prior to Knights of the External Throne. Or Knights of the Fallen Empire. The was it the Return of Revan? You had to go to this one pirate planet. It's kind of cool. Had the similar music. Now we did pick the Loa that gave us the little short flight capabilities, but I haven't seen it anywhere where we can take advantage of that. Yeah. So, going to find this road back out of town here. One steed I'm looking for a mount is something similar to this mount that looks like a traditional Warlock mount, but has wings on it that you can fly. I know it's out there. I don't know what the actual name is, but it'd be kind of cool. Because all the Warlock mounts are demons. So, Master of Demons. As we move through more of the video series, let's try to relate more things from a Warlock perspective and a Forsaken Warlock perspective. That's the idea of the journal here. The side missions here weren't all that difficult, but there were quite a bit of them. I was talking about one of the ways, what I do to determine what quest I do. As I acquire them, they show up in the log there on the right. I believe, I don't know if this is true or not, but I always believed that when I first started playing World of Warcraft, that the order in which the quest pad sorts them in is probably the best prescribed order, even though you can go anywhere you want. I always felt that certain ones are prioritized over others, and I think they do that from a story perspective. And if you follow that layout, all the events will occur within the correct timeline that they should. As a role player, I try to stay within that prescribed timeline.
What do you ask of these Andalari?
Now, one of the things that happened in the last video is the king got stabbed, I think. Actually, I think that occurs after this. So, we end up doing a couple of these side quests on our way to deal with that. So, and I hope there isn't any spoiler alerts, but by the time this video is produced, most of that information is out there on YouTube. So, if you're getting this for the first time, probably not a good way to experience World of Warcraft. Those of you that are following that probably aren't playing the game. They're more interested in the story aspect. We're trying to capture that aspect from a role player point of view in the game, and the speed at which a role player would play, which is a lot slower than our raider counterparts. So things are worse than we thought. Much worse. So there is no reasoning with the Mogus. They only value one thing, strength. That is something the Zandalari have like no other.
Our kingdom will be defended.
Shield of the King. Dun dun. This is the primary port for the Zandalari fleet. Thankfully, most of our ships were out when the Magu attacked, or whatever. I didn't leave myself enough time to read that. How rude. When you're going through the Zandalari's quest as a role player, you have to always keep in mind that the reason we were sent to Zandalari in the first place. And you always gotta keep in the back of your mind that there's a larger story going on with Sylvanas and the Horde. And it's easy to lose track of that and take the Zandalari as sort of a singular story in itself. But a good role player, you gotta put everything in perspective. I was watching a video the other day and they were comparing EverQuest in World of Warcraft. I used to play EverQuest years ago, and certainly they were before World of Warcraft. But I remember when World of Warcraft came out, and there was a big hoopla at Sony Online Entertainment. They were scrambling around, and in the video they were talking about how the death of the game, and I think Sony kind of sealed their own fate. Back then. That was my perspective as a person playing the game. I think they sealed their own fate early, and they never recovered from that. Trying to decide whether to go down here and deal with these guys or go up the steps and deal with them. It looks like it all leads to the same place. Playing that spooky action music. I don't really remember why I delayed. It's like over a week ago, so. One thing I like to do is open up with the Shadow Bolt. Get my offense out there. Now the Void Walker is set for defense, so he's always going to react. And he's my guard. So anyone makes a threatening move towards me, he'll initially move into position and guard my flank. Demonology is not really a damage dealer that is designed to be a speedy kind of character. You have to constantly be aware of everything in front of you. One of the strategies I like to utilize is always keeping the action in front of me so I can see what's going on. That way I know how to react to things. One of the things that's occurring in the story is we're getting introduced to all these different Loas. And they're trying to instill on us why the Loa are important to the trolls. And we're slowly stumbling into this, I want to use the term civil war, but This is sort of prior to that. There's obviously a conflict going on, political conflict going on inside the kingdom between the king, the king's helpers, the daughter, and outside forces that are trying to influence them. That power. One thing I never understood with World of Warcraft, but why there's such a difference in scaling between the player character and the NPCs. Look at all the NPCs, they're like huge. Yeah, your character's always tiny compared to everybody else. What I was saying earlier about Evercrest, and their world is called, was it Azeroth? Wasn't that the game went downhill or anything? Was that the company running it were just they got a little greedy and I think money hungry, and they didn't really inspire the confidence of the people paying the bills, and the community revolted in in mass, and that's kind of sealed the fate for that game. Where on the other hand, Blizzard, on the other hand, I think they're I've always felt, going all the way back to the Warcraft days, was it 94, 95, that Blizzard always came across to me as a company that took a little longer to develop a game, and I've always had a good relationship with them as a customer. So when you're developing a game, everybody who's been around online games for any amount of time understand that there's a lot of complex behaviors going on in the program, and that takes time to work out. Everybody gets that, and if your customers are a little patient with that, they'll understand that. But in Sony Online Entertainment's case, they didn't do that. They started attacking the customers. They were lying to people, and it's not the way you go about instilling confidence with the paying customer. One thing I know that a lot of game companies, you see this more with more recent companies, is that their customer service is really lousy. And Blizzard, for the most part, I think have been really good at customer service. I mean, granted, they got millions of customers, but at the same time, they're very they respond in a timely manner. Now, does that mean that people on their forum aren't going to respond with nasty posts? I doubt that. I think that is always going to occur as long as there's a forum to be heard. But I think World of Warcraft has survived over the years mainly because it's a great game and it's not overly complex. And yeah, back in the classic days, I felt that the game was a little... I felt that there's a little more difficulty in doing the quest. But I understand too that back in those days, as I was experiencing it, that it wasn't a necessary evil, in that most of these online role-playing games were heavily based on questing, and World of Warcraft kind of moved away from that being the central focus of the game. Though it's a major part of the game, it's not necessarily the central focus of, meaning a player doesn't have to jump in, read the quest, know the entire lore to understand, to play the game. And I think that's better. At the same time, it's not a very complex game in terms of the mechanics of playing it. It's very easy to pick up. But you as a player have the ability to determine how complex you want that experience to be. I think is what separates World of Warcraft from a lot of the other MMORPGs that were around at the time or before it and aren't around anymore. And, I think EverQuest is still around, but it's had its day. It's had its day. One thing that World of Warcraft has always had is that it runs on any kind of platform. Back in the 90s, Blizzard games were the only games that were ported both to PC and Macintosh. And I think they benefited from that experience. So now, in the world that's out there now with the gaming industry, the PC is a big market, but if you look at most games coming out now, they're all moving towards console type platform. Myself, I think that's a good thing, but I'd like to see this game on a console. I think it would be kind of cool. I hope they don't drastically change the game, because this game, in my opinion, is always ported well to even a small. If you have a little crappy system, this game actually performs very well. I'm playing a game right here in the minimum settings. You know, so I think it functions very well. Looks really nice. One of the reasons when I renewed my account, one of the underlying reasons why I did is because it ran very well on my laptop. And I could just go anywhere and plop down the laptop and play the game. Just EverQuest, on the other hand, even when it was in its original concept, had a lot of technical challenges. It didn't perform very well as a game, I think. A lot of downtimes, a lot of maintenance time. And, they took a long time to respond to maintenance issues. Serious maintenance issues. And I think it hurt them in the end. I think what happened, though, in Sony Online Entertainment's case is that you had a situation where you had these great game developers, and when they had to deal with Sony as a business, the business didn't know how to operate. They didn't know the people developing the game weren't very strong business-minded people. People running the business weren't very strong game. Didn't really understand what they were dealing with. And then both those two entities had lousy customer or communication skills. which translate to the customer experience, I think. And those three forces collided. In any business, especially like a video game, doesn't matter how great your game design is or how great your business model is, if you can't deliver for the customer, you're gonna suffer. Because at the end of the day, it's the customer that has to have that experience, right? To say, yes, I want to pay for this. Even for a $15 a month game. Is it worth $15 a month? Nowadays, $15 a month is basically a price a movie ticket. So we're slowly weeding through this quest here. These weren't hard quests, but you had to walk around this dock. And then you had to knock out these guys. Plus there's 100 other people walking around trying to get all these guys too. And you had to rescue these guys. Why they can't rescue themselves, I don't know. But
Protect the fleet.
apparently the common everyday Zandalari soldiers can't fight. That would be my perspective. And that's the end.